All right, welcome back to another video. This is lab 6-4, a comprehensive case of Dillard stored data. This is hypothesis testing part 1. So in this lab, we'll test the hypothesis in Excel. Specifically, we will see if the returns in January are greater than the rest of the year. So, just kind of some background information. We know that January returns are associated with many of the purchases due given in Christmas or done in Christmas. So the question is, we hope to test whether there is a significant difference in the amount of returns in January compared to the rest of the year. So in order to do so, we're going to extract data from SQL Server into Excel using Excel's get and transform data or functionality. So in order to do so, we're going to go to data, get data from SQL Server database. And let me type in my credentials and I'll be right back. Okay, so I've gone ahead and put in my server information, and I'm actually going to select the advanced options in order to select certain data from the query I'm pulling from. So I'm going to type that in. Okay, so I've gone ahead and put in my statement, making sure to include relationship columns. And this query will load all of the transactional history for both sales and refunds, grouped by day, as well as transactional type. So I'm going to click OK. I'm just going to hit connect. And allow it to load. I actually forgot to use or add a little one there, so I'm going to go ahead and try that again. And allow it to load. Okay, once my data has loaded, I'm just going to hit load again. And allow it to load into Excel. So actually, I'm going to go into query, then hit edit. And then here I can go to transform. And I'm going to select the tran type column. And I'm going to select pivot column. And the reason I'm doing this is because the tran amount data is based off of sales and refunds, which are separate values. So we're trying to split that data into two columns, one dedicated to sales and another one for refunds amount. So that's why we're kind of splitting it up. So I'm gonna hit OK. Oh, sorry, I'm actually gonna change this to amount and then select OK. Okay, so once you've done that, we're just going to go to home, close and load, and that's just going to load our information into Excel. I'm going to allow it to load now. Okay, so I'm going to control shift down. Okay, that's okay. I'm just going to select my data and create a pivot table. Right here. From the insert tab, select pivot table. And I'm going to select my range to be query 1. So I'm just gonna, let's see if I can, maybe, 1 second. Okay, so I'm actually just gonna select inside, do pivot table, and it will show up as query 1 that way. New worksheet, I'm gonna make sure to select to add this data to the data model. And then I'm gonna select OK. There we go. So once you've created your pivot table, we're going to need the power pivot. So in order to add that to your ribbon, we're going to do options. Sorry, my mind blinked there for a minute. Add-ins. I'm going to change this to com add-ins. go. And Microsoft Pivot, Power Pivot for Excel select. Okay. See that your Power Pivot now shows up. And in measures, we're going to do a new measure. And we're going to do query 1. And I'm going to change the measure name from measure 1 to R-P in caps. Okay, and so by putting in the measure name R over P, we're going to divide the purchasing transactions by the refund transactions. Sorry, we're measuring the average transaction amount. But the formula is true. We are dividing purchasing transactions, but that gives us the average. So I've already put in my formula here. And at the bottom of the measure window, there's an option to select a category. Therefore, I'm going to select general. It has no bearing on how the measure of KPI will work. So I'm just going to select OK. Now the measure is created and it has added more pivot table fields. You can't really see them, but there's definitely more in there because at first I only had 3. Okay, so I've gone ahead and moved my pivot table just to show you exactly what is in my fields here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to place this formula. Actually, let me go ahead and move this just to start off on a clean slate. I'm going to place this formula in values. I'm going to place date in rows. And you'll see it's going to auto-populate a little more than what we had seen originally. So I'm going to get rid of the year, get rid of the quarter. We don't need that. I'll put the month in the filter section and leave the transaction date in the rows. Okay, so since we only want to work with the data from January, we're going to go ahead and filter out our pivot table. To do so, I'm going to hit this little caret, select all, select January, and then hit OK. Make sure you're fetching all of January dates. And now we have the data that we need for one part of our hypothesis test, that is the values from all of January. So we need to separate the values from January to the non-January data. So now we're going to copy this pivot table and modify the filter. In order to do that, okay, so by copying my pivot table, Control Shift down, Control Shift right, Control C, new V. Oh, I'm gonna, one second. Actually, we're gonna keep it in the same sheet. So column D, right there. And then I'm just gonna control, double click here, and double click here, and filter out. Okay, so I'm going to select the filter box, select multiple items, unselect January, and then I'm going to select every other month of the year so that I'm showing the data for the rest of the year except for January. Hit OK, and then here I'm also going to rename it so that I know that this is my January data. And once again, I'm going to put rest of year here. So now that helps me identify that this is the data for January and this is the data for all other months except for January. Okay, so now we're moving on to part 3, which is performing an analysis of the data. So in order to do so, before I even start that, I'm going to go to, File, Options, Add-ins, and we've done this before, so we're adding in an analysis tool pack, and I'm going to select Go, make sure that it's clicked, and then hit OK. Okay, so I see now that my data analysis has been added to my data tab, so I'm going to go ahead and select that. And we're going to use the t-test to sample assuming unequal variances. So t-test assuming unequal variances. I'm going to select OK. And I will now select my range to be this. Shift down. Let me make sure we need to have grand total on there. Let me pause this real quick. So we're actually not going to need the grand total. That's an exception. So I've gone ahead and selected my variable 1 range, which is the January dates. Okay, and my variable 2 range is going to be the dates for the rest of the year, and I'm going to go ahead and put those values in. So I've selected my variable 2 range, and I do want to hit the labels button to make sure that I'm letting Excel know that the ranges I have selected, I've also gone ahead and selected labels, and then I'll hit OK. And I'm just going to control double click here to fit my information as needed. So now I've received results and I can see information where it's comparing the January information to the rest of the year. Okay, so I've gone ahead and reformatted my numbers here just to help them be a little bit more readable. We do see that both of these p-values are 0. And based off of that, we can tell that because our number here for the mean is larger for the January column, then there is a significant raise in returns as opposed to the rest of the year when it's usually about 0.415, and here we have 0.21. So yes, to answer the question that we're looking for, returns are significantly higher in January than compared to the rest of the year. This information is of value to management so that they can properly prepare and have an accurate estimate of returns as they're closing out their, an allowance for returns as they're closing out their books. That's the end of this lab. Once again, this is Lab 6-4, a comprehensive case. Thanks for watching.